Japan Part 115. In the United States, there is no federal agency that sets standards for even attempts to define what all students of a given age should know. To be sure, some American states set standards for students to graduate, but in general there is a less complete system for assuring that the students are given adequate training to meet those standards. Americans are now concerned about the decline in the quality of preparation in primary or secondary schools, but no national data is ever collected in such a way as to tell how well a given school is training its students. It is impressive how well schools throughout Japan ensure that virtually every pupil achieves minimal standards, no student is failed, and all students of the same age proceed together up through grade 9. The threat of failure or of being held back is considered neither desirable nor necessary to encourage students to maintain minimal performance standards. Approximately 95% of the lower secondary students attend public institutions. There is no tracking, and all students are expected to acquire the basic materials of that grade. Some teachers have complained that this system slows down the more talented students, that some of the poorer students still do not catch on to many things in the class. However, the assumption that everyone can and will get through puts the pressure on the teachers, and the poorer students. Americans are much more prepared to accept that some students are unteachable and to give up on difficult students. Japanese teachers exert themselves to see that every student in the class has achieved a certain level before the end of the school year. They mobilize other students and parents to work with the students with difficulties, for they are responsible not just for presenting the material and giving the students an opportunity to learn, but for making sure that they do learn. To assure that every school has the financial resources to provide a minimal level of compulsory education, the Japanese government provides subsidies to poorer prefectures and isolated school districts. A good part of the educational budget is met by the prefectures and some by the local community. But the national budget constitutes about 1/4 of the budget for 9 years of compulsory education. In a relatively wealthy prefecture like Tokyo, about 18% of the public funds for the elementary school budget comes from the national budget. But in a poor prefecture like Omori, about 33% of the elementary school budget comes from the national government. Within a prefecture, an effort is made to supply equal facilities for all pupils, and therefore in isolated rural areas with a smaller number of students, the expense per pupil are actually greater than the metropolitan areas. As a result, there is much more uniformity in school facilities and expenses between school districts than in the United States. In most American states, where major costs of the education are still met by the local taxes, rich suburban schools can sometimes spend twice as much as pupil are poorer suburbs or urban areas. In suburbs or urban areas. Furthermore, in America, dollars spent per pupil in poorest states are substantially lower than that in the richest states, despite special programs for the federal aid. Even in Japan, there are some differences in salary and teacher qualifications between localities, but they are modest. Special subsidies and salary incentives attract teachers to remote communities, and the resulting shortage of teachers in the urban areas forces cities to reduce the large differences in qualification to much smaller level than those between the school districts in the United States. Certification of teachers is by prefecture, but general qualifications are closely monitored by the Ministry of Education, which does not allow the disparity of standards between prefectures to become very large.